For the many caring family and friends who've asked me that question over the course of the last week, are you okay? I've got to say my honest answer is I really don't know.
Tonight, Christian Porter denies a rape allegation made against him, but questions are now being raised over his claim that no news outlets contacted him about the story in what's been labelled one of the worst weeks for Scott Morrison's government since the Black Summer bushfires. It's Sunday the 7th of March. You're watching 6 News also tonight. Dozens shot dead by security forces in Myanmar, with more than 50 people killed since last month's coup, as relatives begin to bury their loved ones. And later, debate rages in the US and here at home after a number of Dr. Seuss books were pulled from publication over racist and insensitive imagery. The latest on that coming up.
What people need to realize is if Dr. Seuss can get cancelled, what can't be?
Good evening. It's been a tumultuous week for the Morrison government as the political fallout from the Parliament House rape scandal worsens. Calls for an inquest into the death of the woman who levelled the historic allegations against Christian Porter were compounded by revelations that Linda Reynolds called Brittany Higgins a lying cow. There is now a growing sense of outrage, disgust and shame as this situation involving our nation's most powerful continues to deepen. Chief reporter Connor Forke has more.
The things that I have read did not happen. They just never happened.
What do you have to do to lose your job under Scott Morrison's government?
We are on the precipice of a revolution whose call to action needs to be heard loud and clear.
The federal government's rape scandal reached a crescendo last week. Attorney General Christian Porter facing the cameras, breaking down as he denied historical sexual assault allegations levelled by a woman on his high school debating team who since committed suicide.
I was 17 years old and I think that she was 16 years old.
There are now mounting calls for a coronial inquiry into her death.
They chose to go ahead with that, then of course I would welcome it. I would have no doubt that the Attorney General would cooperate with any coronial process.
That's despite this just days earlier.
I don't agree with that because that would say that our rule of law and our police are not competent to deal with these issues. There is not some other process. There is not the mob process. There is not the tribe has spoken process.
Faced with the prospect of a defamation lawsuit, Defence Minister Linda Reynolds said on Friday that she's deeply sorry for calling alleged rape victim Brittany Higgins a lying cow in a private meeting with staffers. Brittany Higgins responded to Reynolds' comment, saying it's evidence of the toxic culture within Parliament.
It is that culture that will become the subject of an independent inquiry spearheaded by Sex Discriminations Commissioner Kate Jenkins. It will examine workplace culture in all parliamentary parties, with the full report expected to be released by the end of the year.
As community anger over the government's handling of the allegations grows.
That what we are seeing over the past 3 weeks does an incredible disservice to our democracy, does an incredible disservice to the idea of representation.
Amid mounting calls for them to go, Scott Morrison is standing by both of his embattled ministers. A terrible, horrible, no good, very bad week for the Morrison government, following the release of a damning aged care report. And let's not forget, the spectre of COVID remains. And if you or anyone you know is impacted by sexual assault, family or domestic violence, contact 1-800-RESPECT.
And for more on this story, let's go live now to Chief Reporter Connor 4K. Connor, it's been labelled one of the worst weeks for Scott Morrison's government since those Black Summer bushfires back in 2019 and 2020. What's the latest on this developing situation?
Yeah, Leo, this is very much a developing situation, and we're seeing new details come to light, which raise questions about the account of Mr. Porter's accuser. In her 25-page retelling of the incident, which she planned to give to police, the Adelaide woman revealed that even after the alleged rape, the pair continued to see each other, planning a long-term future together. It's a direct contradiction of Mr. Porter's statement that they spent no further time together after the night in question. And although there are questions about her psychiatric history, friends and family of the alleged rape victim are standing by her, saying they were informed of the incident as early as September 2019. Now it comes as calls for an independent inquiry continue to grow. Barnaby Joyce joining the growing chorus of voices saying many people, including some Liberals, want Porter's head on a plate. But for now, Leo, it's a waiting game as to whether we'll see resignations, lawsuits or inquiries. We could see a protest at Parliament House on March 15, with the call put out for 4,000 women to protest the treatment of women.
Right, got our 4K live for us tonight. Thank you. Meanwhile, Christian Porter is facing more questions after saying that no news organisation came forward to him with the allegations. During his Wednesday press conference, the Attorney General made that claim, but almost immediately after that, both 3AW Radio and the Sydney Morning Herald said they did reach out to his office with questions, but did not get a response back. On social media, many are now questioning his story, asking if his office either did not pass on the questions or simply didn't care. In a follow-up statement, Mr. Porter responded to those claims, saying he was quote-unquote clearly referring to the ABC's initial report last Friday. The first locally produced doses of the AstraZeneca vaccines will be administered in just over a fortnight after a South Australian doctor became the first Aussie to receive the jab. Federal Health Department Secretary Brendan Murphy told reporters that the CSL facility in Melbourne was on track to deliver the first batch of doses beginning later this month, with 1 million doses expected to be produced each week. It came after Italy and the European Union blocked a shipment of the vaccine amid a stoush over contract commitments between the pharmaceutical giant and the EU. In total, Australia has secured 53.8 million doses of the jab, 50 million of which will be made here at home. Dozens of people have been shot dead in Myanmar after the military opened fire on peaceful demonstrations. More than 50 people have now been killed since last month's coup, including 4 children, with Pope Francis among dozens on social media calling for peace. Senior reporter Darby Travers has the latest.
It's just been over 1 month since Myanmar's military took control of the country, with more than 50 people killed since their anti-coup protests began. Thursday was the deadliest since February, with 38 people killed, including 4 children, and since then more deaths are being reported on social media. The Australian government has now called on Myanmar security forces to end the violence, calling the killings of minors indefensible, while Pope Francis said on Twitter that he appeals to the authorities involved that dialogue may prevail over repression. We're now seeing shocking footage of the country, including security forces beating paramedics who were helping injured civilians. One of those paramedics has reportedly died. Here's more of what's being captured on the ground in Myanmar. Now, the EU has confirmed that a growing number of journalists have arrested and charged, with almost no Western reporters currently in the country, while YouTube has removed 5 channels run by Myanmar's military for violating its guidelines. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations has urged a halt to violence and the start of talks on a peaceful solution in Myanmar after more than 100,000 people have been detained so far.
Minneapolis is tonight preparing for ongoing unrest ahead of the trial of Derek Chauvin, the now former officer charged over George Floyd's death. Activist groups like Black Lives Matter have said they plan to protest peacefully during the trial, but cannot rule out the possibility of civil unrest breaking out in the event of an acquittal. Mayor Jacob Frey said the city has been working for months on a plan to deploy around 2,000 National Guard members and 1,100 police officers when the jury starts deliberating in mid to late August. In Washington, D.C., security is tight around the Capitol building and could stay that way for months, especially around the anniversary of George Floyd's death in late May. Now, this all comes as FBI Director Chris Wray condemns the January 6 riot as domestic terrorism while still defending the Bureau's handling of intelligence. Earlier, I spoke to former US Senator Donald Betts about the ongoing investigation.
You can't poke a lion and not expect for your head to get bitten off. It's just taking a bit of time for the United States government to find out what has happened and to get to the bottom of it. And I assure you, the U.S. government will get to the bottom of it. It may not happen as soon as the public likes, but when the job is done, it will be dusted.
US customers have flocked to buy copies of Dr. Seuss books after 6 titles were withdrawn from publication due to racist and insensitive imagery. One of the examples includes from the book If I Ran the Zoo, which has a drawing of 2 men described as being from Africa, wearing grass skirts and carrying exotic-looking animals. eBay has now begun to remove listings of the banned books because of its quote-unquote offensive material, while the growing debate about the move has not just hit social media, it's also made it to the US House.
Let's not attempt to steal knowledge of our nation's history from our children like the Grinch attempted to steal Christmas. I rise to honor the legendary Dr. Seuss for Read Across America Day. Yesterday would also have been his 117th birthday. Before he became a world-famous writer, Seuss attended Dartmouth College, my alma mater. He was also a member of the New Hampshire Alpha chapter of the fraternity Sigma Phi Epsilon, of which I was also a member. We used to love showing Theodore Geisel's class photo on the wall to visitors, but in the spirit of cancel culture, publishers have discontinued 6 of his books. Dr. Seuss was known as a progressive for his time. His famous story, The Lorax, was about protecting the environment. My favorite, Marvin K. Mooney, Will You Please Go Now? My 6-year-old daughter thinks it was written just for her. Children grow up dreaming about Oh, the Places You'll Go, a Dr. Seuss book about the lessons we find throughout our life's journey. We should all respect and honor Dr. Seuss and forget this cancel culture nonsense.
And of course, if you'd like to weigh in on this story, simply comment below by using hashtag 6NewsAU. Well, back home now, and experts have warned that up to 250,000 of Aussies could lose their jobs in a mass wave of business collapses because of JobKeeper being scheduled to end later this month. Professor Jeff Borland from the University of Melbourne says that he estimates up to 250,000 people could lose work when the program finishes on March 28. Treasury, though, has estimated a lower number, saying around 100,000 jobs could go, adding, however, that unemployment will continue to decline over the course of the year. And we've already heard that at least one retailer will be shutting up shop the minute JobKeeper ends. Yogurtland saying they will close all of its 11 stores permanently at the end of this month, putting around 200 people out of work. The federal government has previously said that record numbers of household and business savings during the pandemic will drive the recovery. It's been revealed that Friday's 8.1 magnitude earthquake was one of the strongest to ever hit the South Pacific region. Now, thankfully, while small tsunami waves were witnessed, little damage occurred in the hours following those urgent warnings. Here's some of what was filmed in both New Zealand and Vanuatu.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Now, in addition to those two countries I mentioned just before we showed you those clips, Chilean authorities ordered people off beaches. Guatemala issued a tsunami alert, while Mexico confirmed there was no threat. The US Geological Survey saying that the 8.1 quake was the largest ever in the region, ahead of an 8.0 magnitude earthquake in 1976. SBS has suspended the broadcast of both CCTV and CGT, and after becoming aware of quote-unquote serious human rights concerns surrounding the two Chinese TV channels. Now, both programs are shown on SBS as part of World Watch programming, which airs international news bulletins, many of which are not in English, with a disclaimer that the content is not endorsed by them. Human rights organisation Safeguard Defenders wrote to SBS claiming CCTV broadcast the forced confessions of at least 56 people between 2013 and 2020, which may have been replayed on their English language services. It came after the UK media watchdog Ofcom revoked the licence of CGTN due to quote-unquote serious non-compliance offences. Church leaders in the US are advising Catholics to avoid the newly approved Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine, citing the use of abortion-derived cells to make the doses. A statement issued by the chairman of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Doctrine and Abortion Issues reiterated the moral concerns surrounding the jab, saying the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines are preferred options. CBS News reports that Johnson & Johnson's jab is made using a harmless cold virus called an adenovirus, which is grown using an immortalized cell line before the virus is then pulled out and purified. Now, Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards, who is actually a rare anti-abortion Democrat, stressed the use for people to use any of the approved vaccines available in order to stop the spread of the virus. Well, today was Clean Up Australia Day, with the group encouraging Aussies to get involved by supporting their campaigns and simply cleaning up. Now, a few quick statistics for you. The ABS says that Australia generated around 67 million tonnes of waste last year, a 10% increase from 2016, while an estimated 540 kilograms of household waste per person is also produced. And it's also been estimated that 130,000 tonnes of Aussie plastic ends up in waterways and oceans each year, getting there via littering, products like wet wipes being flushed, and plastic flying away from landfill processing. Alright, we're checking tomorrow's forecast right across the country for tomorrow now. Brisbane partly cloudy, a top of 29. Sydney heavy rain, also 29 degrees. 26 in the nation's capital, 21 and cloudy in Melbourne, also 21 in Hobart, 26 in Adelaide, 37 in Alice Springs, 29 in Perth, and in Darwin, heavy storms, a top of 32. And just quickly, you may have noticed we have a new location on our weather map there, that of course being Alice Springs. Now, we've included it based on a viewer request, and from now on, if you've got a location you'd like to see on the weather map, whether it's your home suburb or a town you're travelling to, let us know in the comments or tweet us using hashtag 6NewsAU. You just might see it on air. And that is 6 News for this very busy Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with the latest news headlines and breaking stories by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and now just search 6 News A to find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.